Shut up and sit down.
Alright, so this is going to be another one of my sketchy opinions. So, the main thing that I really want to talk about today is that hardcore fans ruin everything. They really do. If you consider yourself a hardcore fan of something, there's a pretty good chance that you're making it worse to some degree. Now, there are good ones. There are good people who they sit back, they sit quietly, and they just kind of give their opinions, and their opinion is fine. It's fine to have an opinion on something. It's fine to really, sorry about that. It's fine to really enjoy something and want to talk about it and really be dedicated to something. But there's a point where people do ruin the experience for others. And the main two things that I am going to be talking about this, and because I do kind of expect to go a little longer, I might have to break this up into 2 videos. But the 2 things where this has been kind of a big thing and that I've noticed is in gaming and in wrestling. 2 big things that I watch and play and do. Well, I don't wrestle a lot, obviously. But it's 2 things that are kind of intrinsic to my life. I don't think I used that word right, but I'm going to go with it. So, the reason I started on this is I do spend a lot of time, as I've probably mentioned before, I spend a lot of time online. I spend a lot of time on forums and funny junk mainly, where I see gaming, and I think it's CW Nation is the website that hosts Cage Side Seats. And from what I've seen, they're relatively chill. When you go to YouTube, oh my god, YouTube is horrible. But I guess everyone knows that. And the things that I really see, and actually one of the things that I saw that really pissed me off at a pay-per-view for wrestling was a pay-per-view. At the pay-per-view, I just watched it and I'm like, wow, you guys are a bunch of dickbags. And hey, guess what? One of the wrestlers noticed and he said, hey, you guys suck, or you let me down, or something along those lines. I think his comment was, you really disappointed me, Boston. I think it was in Boston. No, Brooklyn. That was Seth Rollins after his match with Finn Balor, which I'll get to. But I'm going to start off with gaming, kind of, because that's the one that I think most people can kind of see, and I think most people need to understand. So, I've talked about this before, how gamers are just a little too hardcore, how they expect so much from game development companies, and that's not necessarily what I'm going to be saying today. The thing is, like, what really brought this up to me was the release of No Man's Sky. Now, here's the thing. I'm not defending the game at all. No, I'm not. Don't start there. The thing that I'm getting at is the people who sat there and for months and months and months and months, I saw this, I don't know, 5 months ago was the first time I saw anyone say something about this game, and they're like, oh my god, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And you know what, gamers get hyped. It's just something that happens, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when they get this hyped up over something, anyone who doesn't sit there and say, okay, what are they not telling you, is kind of not all there. That's not the best way to word it. They're not thinking too much. They're just kind of saying, oh, this game developer is telling me that they're going to do a great job, and you have to question everything to some degree or another. I'm usually one of those people who says give benefit of the doubt to some people, especially people who spend millions of dollars to entertain you and doesn't always get things right, because what you want is either not told to them or so scattered. I think Gopher made a video recently where the thing that Bethesda messed up on, that a lot of people harp on about Fallout 4, is they took out things that a lot of people liked. I really liked Fallout 4. All of the things that were in it, I really didn't have a problem with. But a lot of people are just like, this is a horrible RPG. They'll compare it to, I think the big comparison that I've seen is to any RPG in general is The Witcher. The Witcher 3 is to a lot considered to be this is what it's supposed to be. This is what gaming, this is like that's what a lot of people say. This is how an RPG should be played. And then the thing that confuses me is they'll go over to another game and say this isn't a very good RPG, and I don't understand that, because in The Witcher you're given a character. You don't get to pick your character. You are Geralt of Riviera. He talks the same way as everyone else. He talks the same way for every single person's play. He has the same, I think it's 4 lines per choice. I'm not a big Witcher fan. I couldn't get into the series. It is just very slow to me. But from the time that I have played in the game, you get one weapon type. You get one character. And you don't get to pick any of his dialogue. And in all honesty, primarily because it's based off of a book, you don't get that much. You're not going to get that much decision. Sure, you might get some here and there, but in general, they're telling you a story. It's almost easier to compare The Witcher to a JRPG than a Western RPG. Not in combat style per se, but in the structure of it. Because Western RPGs recently have become a lot about choice. There is choices literally everywhere in most Western RPGs. Everything you do, it has some form of choice. And I'd put choice in giant quotation marks because you are still limited by the game itself. Twitch Bethesda games usually give you a lot of choice. Like, from one instance to the next, what you do is really not too scripted. Of course, there are instances when you're following a quest, you do have to do a specific thing. But, like, JRPGs, they don't give a shit what you think about the story. In all honesty, for most JRPGs, they say, here's your story, here's your characters, here's the skills they're going to learn for the entire course of the game. Like it or don't play. We don't care. For instance, my favorite game series of all time is the Dragon Quest series, the Dragon Quest Dragon Warrior series. And for 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, I know, 6 is a little, 1, 2, 4, and 5. You don't get a choice. Like, all of the games except for 9, you don't get to create 9 and 3, I think. You don't get to create a character. It says, here's your character. Sure, go ahead and name him, but this is who he is. And then he doesn't... sorry. He gets a set of skills. Now, the reason I kind of start talking about No Man's Sky and then ramble on is it goes back to the expectations thing. Gamers as a whole, I've seen recently, especially the hardcore gamers, say, this is what I want. And they will set a standard. And the standard to them is excellence. See, the reason I talk about Witcher 3 is because I'll admit, even though I'm not a personal fan of it, it is a great, phenomenal game. CD Projekt Red, or Project Red, however you're supposed to pronounce it, know what they're doing when it comes to making an RPG. But, sitting there saying, this game is phenomenal, this game is amazing, this game is the greatest I've played in forever, and then setting it here and then saying, every game must be that, is ridiculous. It's one of those things where you'll look into, like, magazines, and I remember, not too much, but when I was a little kid, you'd see a game and you'd say, okay, it's rated from 1 to 10, or it's 1 to 5. And if a game is 5 and lower, it's not going to be it's probably not a very good game. 5 is still playable on a 1 to 10 scale. That's how I always remember it. 7 is where every game should try to get to. If a game doesn't get to 7, then you might question it. 5 is still playable at its core. But now, if games aren't 8 or 9, then a lot of people will just say, oh, it's not a very good game because it didn't get an 8 or a 9. No, that's not the case. That's part of the reason why scores are stupid to begin with. But sitting there saying a game has to get this 8 or 9, and then crapping on, sorry about this guy, crapping on it because it's just under that, or crapping on the reviewer because it's a 7 or something like that. 7's fine. 7's good. 7 it's a good game. It is playable. There's nothing game-breakingly bad about it, but it's good. So I'm going to bring it all back to No Man's Sky right now. Because expectations is what makes hardcore fans the worst people. Because they always set their expectations, and then if their expectations are not met, they will shit on everything and anything they can to a stupid degree. Now, as I said before, I am not going to defend or protect No Man's Sky. It does have its bugs. I honestly never cared about it. I really didn't. It's one of those things where people talk about it so much that I start to care about it. And the reason I start to care about it is people are acting like the biggest betrayal ever in gaming. Because this game, honestly, a lot of it is just because they didn't have multiplayer. Now, here's the thing. If you for a second believed that this company was going to give every single thing they've promised, then you're an idiot. Blatant, honest, full stop. Because the game was... Now, I could be off on the information, and if I am, please say something, and I apologize if I am. But as I understand, the game was developed by an indie studio with 15 or so people over the course of about 3 to 4 years. Now, if anyone doesn't see the problem in an indie studio saying that they are going to make a game with a quadrillion or something, or a quintillion, something stupid along those lines, a quintillion planets, and it's going to have all these amazing features, and it's going to look great, it's going to be a AAA, it's going to be better than AAA games, and it's developed by 15 people over the course of 3 to 4 years. Are you stupid? I saw someone post something on Facebook the other day about how Star Trek Online is what No Man's Sky is supposed to be. And I'm not saying that he's stupid, I'm just saying what he said was stupid. Because that was a game that was developed by 2 studios over the course of 6 years, if I'm remembering it all right. And it was by major studios. It wasn't by a bunch... It wasn't by a guy who made Burnout and then gathered 15 other people and decided to make this massive game. Now, yes, it was backed by Sony. Sony was publishing this thing. However, that comes in with problems. What is the biggest thing people complain about? And honestly, one of the biggest things people complain about for games. And it's EA. EA is 9 out of 10 times, and I can guarantee you they have improved, and that's why you don't see as much talk about them. Usually it's toward Ubisoft, or I think Activision gets a lot of hate now. But they sit there and they say all these games are bad because of their publisher. And that is sometimes accurate. Sometimes a publisher does rush a game out, say, hey, you're launching it on this day, we don't care how complete it is, but make sure it doesn't have any glitches, make sure it doesn't have any bugs, cut what you have to make this game release on time. There are companies that will do that, and I'm not saying EA isn't one of them. They probably do that. They have a history of doing that in certain cases. But for the most part, they do kind of get games out when they're supposed to, and they're mainly bug-free. That's all you can ask for, in my opinion. So, it's just... Sorry, like, you guys expected this game on this that was just playing this massive, and it just telling you all the things in the world, and you believed it. That's what I'm getting at with this, is you guys are going on every forum I've seen, anyone that even breathes the word, anyone that talks about gaming and says, oh, this was a good game, and anyone can kind of extrapolate and connect No Man's Sky in there. I've seen this. I have seen them talking about a fucking fantasy game, and No Man's Sky pops in, and it just confuses me. You guys are so butthurt over what you expected, and you didn't take the time to think, you know what, maybe I'm expecting too much. To the point where the outrage is so intense that Steam actually has given, from what I've heard, Steam has actually given refunds to people who have played 50 hours of a game. Plain and simple. If you have played over 2 days of a game and you are sitting there saying, I need my money back. This game did not live up to my expectations. You need to give me my money back after playing over 2 days in that game. No, fuck you. That is fucking robbery. You don't get to play an entire game for 2 days and then sit there and say, well, I just didn't get that much enjoyment out of it. People fucking critique games off of less time than that. Fucking if you go on to Yahtzee, if you go to Zero Punctuation, he says that, hey, I didn't have enough time to play Final Fantasy 13 to the point where people say it gets good, and frankly, I don't care. If a game takes that long to get good, then it's not worth my time. Something along those lines. I'm not quoting him exactly. But the fact that you guys are sitting there saying this game should give me... I can't determine if this game is good enough after 50 hours. No, fuck you. You know whether the game's good or not within the first 5, maybe. Honestly, if a game doesn't scratch the itch you want it to scratch within the first maybe 5 hours, then okay, I can justify that. But it goes back to something that I've had a problem with for when did the Xbox One first get announced? Since about then. You see, when the Xbox One first was announced, it was announced with the intention to move primarily to a digital platform. That's what their goal was, is they wanted to move to a position where buying games in stores was no longer necessary. You could do it, which is fine, but they didn't want that to be the primary place most people get games. And you know what? Why not? Why the fuck not? Like, I think I saw an article on Forbes where the person said, you know what, they might as well have just let us do that. Because taking the amount of time it takes to download a game, or the amount of time it takes to go to a store, buy a game, install the game, update the game, and all that malarkey, is just as long as it would take to sit here, go onto your console, press download, and guess what? You're going to get the exact same fucking thing. The only difference is you're not going to be able to go to fucking GameStop 20 hours after you've beaten the game and hand it into them and say, I want my money back. They're not going to give you your money back. They're going to give you $20 because you don't get to buy something, experience it, enjoy it, have fun for a shit ton of time, and then go get your money back. That's bullshit. You don't get to utilize a good or service to its full extent and then ask for your money back. Yeah, you might argue, well, the game's supposed to be played over a much larger period of time. Okay, but you played enough time to enjoy it. I've actually had someone give me that comment, that he played 50 hours. I don't think he played 50 hours specifically. I don't know this person exactly. But he said, it makes sense that you would play this game and you're hyped up about it and you get into it and you're having so much fun. right there, I'm going to cut him off. But he didn't, I would like to cut him off. Because once you say, I had fun playing this game, then your argument that it is not worth your money is dead. It's fucking over. And this guy goes on to say that, yeah, if you play up to 50 hours and then you suddenly start looking back at the game and realizing all the problems with it, then you're perfectly justified in being disappointed and expecting your money back. No, you're fucking not. If you go in, it's like, I'm going to go to a car wash and I'm going to get my car washed, and there's going to be something that, like, and it's a great car wash, but there's a piece of dirt, or maybe even there's a little bit of rust on the bottom. Oh, I don't like that. I want my money back. Or you go to a movie, and you sit there, you sit in the movie, eat all your popcorn, eat all your snacks, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna analyze the movie. If you do the Spoonie thing where he'll enjoy a movie and then he'll get home and just start breaking things down because that's his job. He's a critic. If you go do that and then you come back, like before you even get to your car, you turn around, go back in. I want to return for my popcorn. I want to return for the movie. I want to return for everything because the movie had plot holes. No, go fuck yourself. Go away. Leave me alone. Sorry. So, and that's the thing that frustrates me. Gamers are just expecting so much. They demand so much. They demand excellence to be the standard. Excellent. If we could make everything this excellent, like we could make phenomenal games, perfect games, every single time, never having a bad game, we would need 5 games a year, at most. We wouldn't need all of these games. That's why we need these 7 out of 10 games. We need these good, solid games that I can pick up, play for 10 hours, and then be done with it. Because, hey, it was a fun time. I just don't want to go back to it anytime soon. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, oh boy. Like, your guys' expectations, and the demand that you get exactly what you want is fucking annoying. It's fucking ridiculous, and it's stupid. It really is. There is a point where, I'm sorry, you don't always get what you want.